You know that feeling when you pick up a phone and it just vanishes in your hand? Yeah, me neither, until this, the iPhone Air. It's the thinnest iPhone Apple has ever made, and it's also the first phone that doesn't actually feel like a phone at all. Instead, this feels like someone forgot to put the phone inside the screen. It feels like you're just holding a piece of glass. Turn it on, and it's like you're holding a display and you're left wondering where the rest of the phone went. You instantly feel like you're holding in your hand the future. But then, a few seconds later, other thoughts start creeping in. What sacrifices had to be made in order to achieve this? Is this battery trash? Am I gonna accidentally snap it in half? Will it even take a decent photo? Thin is in, and the iPhone Air is definitely the coolest iPhone Apple made this year. But it's useless if it can't survive a real day. So I spent the past week seeing where this thing would fail because it has to be full of compromises, right? And if you missed it, I teamed up with Kraft to give away a 1TB iPhone Air or 512 gig iPhone 17 Pro Max, your choice, as well as 2 pairs of AirPods Pro 3. I will leave the details down in the description for how to enter. You can also find them in my iPadOS 26 video. Let's get started with this ridiculous design. Pick up the iPhone Air and your brain glitches for a second. This thing is 5.6 millimeters thin and just 165 grams. But it doesn't flex, creak, or feel like a prototype. It feels more like a high-end watch than a phone, and that's not an accident. Apple's using grade 5 titanium here, the stuff they use in high-end aerospace and luxury timepieces. It's insanely strong for its weight and lets Apple go thinner without flex. Why? Because you can machine it thinner, polish it to a mirror finish, and still get ridiculous strength to weight ratio. I legit watched Apple stress test one of these phones with my own eyes. 132 pounds of force pressing right in the center, bending the iPhone Air. I braced for bendgate thinking this thing was gonna shatter, but it snapped right back into place when the pressure was removed with no bend to be seen. That's crazy for something this thin. But here's the wild part. See this camera bump area that Apple refers to as the plateau? This right here, this small area, is basically where they shifted the majority of the phone components right here alongside that camera. That reserves the rest of the space below to be taken up by the high density battery, more on that shortly, and MagSafe. And here's the thing, Apple didn't sacrifice the important features to make it this thin. You still get the action button, camera control, the dynamic island, Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 6, Thread for smart home, dual frequency GPS, ultra wideband, IP68 water resistance, and every satellite feature from road assistance to emergency SOS. Now up front, you've got Ceramic Shield 2, which is actually 3 times more scratch resistant than before. And for the first time, the back is also Ceramic Shield, so it's 4 times harder to crack than the glass on previous iPhones. Now, I didn't do any drop testing, but I am glad to hear that Apple took both cracking and scratching a lot more seriously this year. I purposefully put the iPhone Air in my pocket over the past week next to my AirPods and some coins, and there isn't a single scratch to be seen on this display, not one. This is what every iPhone wanted to feel like since 2007. The model I'm testing here is the 1TB Sky Blue, but there's also Cloud White, Space Black, and Light Gold. So Apple set out to make the best feeling iPhone they've ever built. In my opinion, they nailed it, but great design means nothing without a display that lives up to it. So, does it? The screen on the iPhone Air isn't just good for a thin phone. It's part of this year's best displays that Apple's ever shipped across the board on the iPhone 17 lineup. You're getting a 6.5-inch Super Retina XDR panel with a ridiculous 3000 nits of peak brightness, up from the max of 2000 nits on previous iPhones. And I've got to say, the 6.5-inch size feels really nice. It's the same size as what you would have gotten on an iPhone XS Max or 11 Pro Max, but with smaller bezels and without the thickness of those phones. Taking the iPhone Air out on a cloudless Seattle day didn't result in that same game of hunting for shadows or cupping the hand over the display to read text. No washed out previews. When shooting photos, no guessing if your exposure is right. And brute force brightness is just half of it, as Apple also added a new anti-reflective coating, resulting in this wild up to 2x outdoor contrast boost. That said, while it is an improvement, I can still definitely see glare. It's not quite as good as what you see with Samsung's Galaxy Ultra's anti-glare, but it is still a big improvement overall. And ProMotion is here too, 120 Hz, just like the rest of the entire iPhone 17 and 17 Pro lineup, which is great to see. Honestly, the combination of thinness edge-to-edge glass, and this much punch in a display makes the Air feel like the screen is just floating in your hand. You also just forget about the hardware, which I think is the real point. But here's the part that actually shocked me. All that thinness and premium feel is useless if the phone can't deliver real performance. So what's under the hood that makes the Air work where others would just overheat, slow down, or die by dinner? Here's where Apple did something I think most people did not expect. Instead of putting the base A19 in the Air, they went with the A19 Pro. That's basically the same chip you get in the iPhone 17 Pro, just with one less GPU core. That might be confusing to some. Why put the faster chip in such a thin device, right? Well, when it comes to the A19 Pro, yes, it is more powerful than the A19, but it actually uses less power to deliver that power. It's the more efficient option, believe it or not. And this thing is a monster. 6-core CPU, 5-core GPU, all new neural accelerators built into every core, and a 16-core neural engine for powering Apple Intelligence features and machine learning. But here's a twist. In real life, that means you're getting desktop class speed, somewhere around M2 territory, and legit battery life at the same time. Now, I hammered this phone. Gaming, Apple Intelligence and on-device AI apps, editing and exporting videos, juggling a bunch of heavy apps, etc. And yes, with intense gaming or higher-end tasks, this phone will get warm. You cannot cheat physics in a 5.6mm body, and it will throttle. But for the vast majority of smartphone tasks, it's just instant. No stutters or waiting around. When it comes to compromises on the iPhone Air, one area where you won't be feeling that is on speed. This phone is genuinely powerful, and you feel it every time you unlock, swipe, or create. So where might you feel a compromise? Well, I guess it's time we talk about the cameras. Camera, singular. All right, here's the truth. This is Apple's most advanced single lens camera ever, but it's just that. One rear camera. You get a 48 megapixel Fusion main sensor, which defaults to 24 megapixel photos that fuse 48 megapixels and 12 megapixel frames for better low light and detail. You do get what Apple calls optical quality 2x telephoto thanks to the sensor crop, which does get its own image processing pipeline. You can also toggle custom 28mm and 35mm focal lengths right in the camera app, which is a win for creative shooting. All the signature main camera lens stuff is here. Next-gen portraits with real adjustable depth, tap to refocus, smarter photographic styles, including the new bright option, which I think looks great and got me to switch away from amber. It also does next-generation portrait mode using only one lens. But here's the reality. The lack of ultra-wide and true telephoto is real. You're missing that flexibility for tight zooms, wide group shots, and the kind of pro-level framing you get with iPhone 17 Pro or even the standard 17's dual lens setup. If you need to zoom at your kid's soccer game, the digital crop does get you closer, but it isn't the same as a real lens. And if you're used to having that ultra wide for landscapes or creative angles, it's just not here. It's the least versatile camera system on any flagship iPhone this year. But for most daily use, and I bet for more than 80% of typical iPhone users, this is more than enough. It's crisp, it's sharp, it's great in low light, and has all of Apple's best computational tricks. The same goes for video. You still get 4K 60 frames per second with Dolby Vision, action mode, audio mix, spatial audio, and the new dual capture mode that lets you record your rear and front cameras at the same time. However, there are a couple of missing video modes that I will miss here, namely cinematic mode and spatial video, both of which require at least two lenses. But then there's the new front camera, which is a serious upgrade across the board for all iPhones this year. And this is one where the iPhone Air isn't compromised at all. This new front camera is a serious upgrade, not just more megapixels. The images are 18 megapixels now instead of 12, but the sensor itself is square. That means whether you're shooting vertical or landscape, the camera can reframe, punch in, or rotate without you needing to flip the phone or lose quality. This isn't software cropping either. The lens and sensor combo actually captures more of your surroundings, so when center stage kicks in, it uses AI to widen or rotate the frame and make sure everyone fits in, whether you're alone or suddenly with 6 people deep in a group selfie. The sensor is almost twice the size as last year, so you get sharper, brighter selfies and way less noise. Now, one thing I didn't see mentioned in Apple's keynote is that this works the same with video too on that front camera. So you can shoot horizontal video while holding your phone vertically as well, keeping the camera centered, which will make things look even better. For video calls, center stage kicks in there too. So on FaceTime or Zoom, if you move or someone else walks into frame, The camera auto adjusts, keeping the shot smooth and centered. This makes a difference for so many different categories of things. Creators making Instagram reels, families taking selfies, and anyone jumping on a video call. Now, the way the front camera works here is exactly the kind of magic that makes Apple, well, Apple. But here's the wild part, and it's the one you've probably been waiting for. None of this center stage magic, the crazy thin design, or the A19 Pro power means anything if the phone can't last. I've used plenty of phones that looked great on launch day, but tapped out by lunchtime. So after a week of pushing the Air's cameras, AI, and display, was I finally let down by physics, or did Apple solve the thin battery curse? Here we go. When a phone is this thin, battery life is usually the first thing to go out the window. So I pushed the Air the way I'd push any other phone to see how it would hang. Off the charger at 8:30 a.m., shooting 4K video, editing photos and reels, using maps, streaming music, and of course watching a bunch of YouTube. I was totally ready for the usual by 2 p.m. you're hunting for a charger routine. But here's the twist. On one of my lighter days at midnight, I had around 7% battery left without charging at all that day. On other days around dinner time, I found that even though the phone wasn't dead, it would make sense to throw it on a MagSafe charger for a bit, which would bring it back to life quickly. And I guess that's the thing here. Apple makes 5 iPhone models. So if the Air doesn't work for you, you've got 4 others to choose from between the 16E, 17, 17 Pro, and 17 Pro Max. Battery life is important to everyone, I imagine, but not everyone uses their phone in the same way or does the same thing. On days where I wasn't purposefully trying to push it, I found the iPhone Air's battery to be totally fine. This was my number one worry about this phone. Yes, I am someone who shoots 4K videos on the daily with his iPhone and then does editing of those videos too. But that's not everyone though. Now, Apple's battery claims of all-day battery life, my verdict is, it depends. But it's gonna be true for a lot of people. The question isn't, can the iPhone Air last a full day? It's, can the iPhone Air last my full day? And even that only applies if you have no way to charge from morning through night. Most people can charge in the car to and from work, or at their desk during work, etc. And if you're worried about running out on a big travel day, here's the clutch move. Snap on the iPhone Air MagSafe battery and you can stretch to up to 40 hours of video playback. It's slim, the magnets are strong, and it manages charging to keep things cool, unlike the vast majority of third-party options. Now, all of that sounds impressive on paper, but you know how this goes. Sometimes the most future-feeling phones can miss the basics. So does the Air deliver the full flagship experience, or are there corners being cut that you won't notice until you actually live with it? If you want to know what $1,000 gets you, this is the first iPhone where people legitimately gasp when you hand it to them. Everyone expects the Pro line to be the cool one, but the Air is the one that gets the whoa, is that real reaction. It vanishes in your pocket, in your hand, and in your bag until you need it, and then it's pure iPhone like you'd expect. Personally, the only time I missed the Pro was when I needed those extra camera lenses, or if I'm being honest, when I wanted that cosmic orange goodness that I just cannot get enough of. All right, hold on guys, I'm editing this video and I forgot one other detail about the iPhone Air that does make me miss other iPhones, and that is the speakers, or speaker. There's one speaker on the iPhone Air, it's right at the top, the same place where you would take a phone call. So if you like stereo speakers, if you're into stereo speakers when you're watching content, it is kind of strange to watch a video, especially in landscape, and only have the sound coming from one side. Watching content vertically, it's not actually that big of a deal, but horizontally, it is a little bit strange. So that is one other thing I wanted to call out about the Air. That said, if you care about feel, if you want the iPhone that feels like a science fiction prototype, and you aren't using your phone to play high-end games or hammering it with apps that will push it all day, this right here is the phone to get. The Pro is still king if you need max cameras and battery life, but the Air is the most exciting iPhone of 2025. Just go hold it at an Apple store and try to resist. Trust me, you will not want to. Don't forget, we are giving away your choice of a 1TB iPhone Air or a 512 gig iPhone 17 Pro Max. Hit the description for those details, or just head over to my iPad OS 26 video, which explains everything. Thanks for watching as always, guys. I appreciate your support. I'm Andru, and I will catch you in the next video.